milestone, 10th
Yeah.
episode. Brilliant. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Actors Unscripted, episode 10. Little milestone for us. Very good, very good. And today we have the lovely Nia Gandhi with us today. How are you doing, Nia? You good?
Yeah, good. I'm well, thank you. Nervous, like we just
Of course, yes. That's not a problem at all. Now, Nia is someone who's done a lot of stage work, has done film work, and has had a lot of experience in general in the whole industry. But Nia, tell us about yourself. Tell us the journey you've sort of had from school and then sort of going and working into the industry.
So, well, initially when I was in school, I think I sort of very accidentally came into acting because when I was in school, I actually wanted to be an astrophysicist. So,
Sick.
yeah, it was completely different career path. I think that I was planning to go down for most of my life, and then I think it came time for applying to university, and I realised, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And so I just decided to give it a go and apply for drama school, and got in, and yeah, and then I went,
Yeah.
and then
What school was it, by the way?
Royal Welsh, yeah.
Perfect. Cool. So are you Welsh yourself?
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Very cool. So you sort of deviated from, maybe a traditional sort of career path to then being like,
Mm.
I want to go do that. What do you think the impetus to you to go and do acting was? Was it just literally, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, so I want to do it?
Well, I think it's a really odd thing where, like, throughout my life, I think I was. If you asked me what job I wanted to do when I was a kid, it would have changed like every single week.
Hmm.
But I loved acting, and I always did. Um, and I think that was always there in the back of my head, and that was always where I could kind of see myself moving towards. And it's really interesting since I've started acting. My mum, she's really proud, which is really nice.
Amazing.
Yeah, she's lovely. And she likes to talk about what I'm doing a lot.
Uh-huh.
Um, and she, a couple of times now, she's come back home and she said, "Oh yeah, I was chatting to so and so, and I told them you're acting now, and they said, oh, we're so glad that she's doing what she's always wanted to do." So I think on some level, I must have been making it clear to everyone else what I wanted to do, even if I didn't know that
Yeah.
that's what I wanted. And I think it was partially like the idea of having a career when I was in school was so like I don't think I ever quite grasped what that meant.
Yeah.
And then when it came to university, and I think I started to take it a bit more like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I
Mm.
kind of realized that was maybe not something I'd ever really thought about. So probably a good idea to do
Yeah,
that.
great.
Yeah.
100%. Okay. Well, this my question with drama school in particular, especially like Royal Welsh, which is like apparently is a really great school. What was your experience there like? How did that sort of, because I'm guessing that was your first sort of introduction to the industry as a whole. So how did you find that whole experience?
So, well, it's when I first applied to drama school, and when I got into drama school, I don't think I really knew what it was. I
Mm.
don't think I really knew what you were meant to get from it, and I definitely didn't really realize till I got there that one of the things I think, I don't know if it's one of the things people like to get from it is they like to go and they like to get an agent from it, I think. And I didn't really realize that was part of it.
Mm.
And so I kind of went a bit naive, I guess. And I think if I could go back and do drama school now, I would maybe I think I would find it more beneficial now, having been in the industry. But at the time that I went there, I think I was so focused on getting it right, which I think a lot of people can do when they get into drama school because it's built up so much, because we're always told it's so hard to get into. And then when you get in there, I think, feel a lot of pressure to prove that you deserve your
Mm,
place, even though you've kind of done that by, getting in. And it's not
yeah.
like, I think it's, getting in doesn't mean you're fantastic, and not getting in doesn't mean you're not fantastic. It's really like, it doesn't really, like, there's all sorts of reasons why you get in and why you don't get in.
Mhm.
Much as there's all sorts of reasons why you get a part but you don't get another part.
Yeah.
Um, and it can have, very little to do with, like, some amazing people never go to drama school.
Yeah.
Um, and I think now, having a better idea of who I am, I think I'd find drama school a lot easier. And I just wish I'd allowed myself to make more mistakes, because I think I'd have
Mhm.
learned more. I mean, not that I didn't make mistakes, but every time I made a mistake, I'd be like, oh, why have you done that? You've got it wrong. Like, you need to get it right. And
Right.
I didn't risk enough. And so didn't get as much as maybe as I could have done.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Do you think do you think that the reason why you felt like that was because of the fact that it was such like a bigged up thing, like drama school? Oh, it's this massive thing. If you get in and then you have to like prove yourself, it's like a proving ground almost. Is that how you would say you felt is the reason why you couldn't be free to just fail?
Oh, yeah. I definitely think that was part of it. At least, definitely for me, I think. And part of it was coming in with that lack of awareness of exactly what it was
Mm,
and what I could get from it. Meant that I came in and I met all these people who knew what it was and who knew what they wanted to get from it. And I was so, um, I think I was quite intimidated by that,
right.
which I think puts your guards up even higher, doesn't it? And
100%.
yeah, and so you end up risking even less.
Yeah, that's interesting because especially with the agent part too,
Mm,
like a lot of the time, in my opinion, there is almost an idea that there's a guarantee that you're going to get something out of the school.
mm,
And yes, you're going to get the teaching, you're going to be provided, and you're going to be surrounded by all these great individuals. But I think at the same time, if you're going in there thinking, oh, I'm going to get something, I'm going to get an agent, I'm going to get something, you might be there for the wrong reason. Because either way, like even if you do go to one or not, getting an agent is its own thing in itself, you know?
mm.
And I
Yeah, and
feel
it's, oh, sorry.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say it's a long 3 years to go through to get an agent when you can just,
Exactly.
yeah.
And this is for me, this is my biggest thing about drama school is that they restrict you in a way where you can't actually experience the real reality of the business because you're like, yes, it's great. You're there for 3 years, you're in your little bubble with your peers and you're learning and you're growing. However, it's so different. The
Mm,
outside world is completely different from being in a studio with your teachers and with all of the certain resources that are there. It's completely different. Like I only graduated last year, but oh my God, it is like it is wildly different. Like without a doubt, you know? So I think for me anyway, that's one of my biggest things is like I don't see the point of being stuck for 3 years, and then maybe in the final year, you're given that freedom to maybe audition for things, maybe go up for things, maybe go and do, um, actual life experience.
mm.
That's yeah, that's one little thing. But, however, like, on the contrary, like, on the other side, would you say for someone like yourself coming into the industry straight off the bat, getting that training, do you think that was essential for you?
It's really, it's a really difficult question, because it's really hard for me to picture what path I would have taken if I hadn't gone to drama school, because
Mm,
that's what I did. And that's kind of what I've always, yeah, that's how I've always known it. And I definitely did learn from there. And um, I think what I was given in there was, I was given a lot of different techniques and a lot of the foundation of a lot of techniques. And it was when I got out in the industry, I think, that I started to apply them a bit more and feel the benefit of them. I don't think you need to go to drama school to get that.
mm,
I think some of it comes from a better knowledge of myself and what works for me. And kind of
Yeah.
like I realized I actually didn't have a clue about how I thought about acting or why I liked acting so much when I went to drama school. And so I think it did give me a space to play, really, I think. Yeah.
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 100%. I think that is a really good point to make. Is that it's your own personal decision and your own thought. Like, do you think it's good for you? Do you think it's not? And I think that's really important. Like, I could sit here and say that it's not beneficial, but that's from my experience.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I think that's a really crucial point. But at the end of the day, you think about Royal Welsh, you think about Lambda, Rada, all these places. There is there is sort of like I would say there's like a safety to it. Like I believe that because I look in my position, I went from year 8 to uh, year 11. I was already at Silvers. I was already training. And then from there, I went to Arts Ed, and then I was already training for another 2. So from my perspective, it's a bit,
mm,
kind of take my my opinion for granted, but I do feel like there is an element of like safety. You're still at school, like, oh,
mm,
I'm still being kept here. It's the and
mm.
truth be told, yes, it is quite scary to go away from school. Like you graduate at like 18, and then you just go into the real world, which is like what I've done. So it's like, you do shit your pants a bit, and it makes sense. But what do you think on that? Like, what do you think what's your opinion on that?
I think that's definitely true. I think definitely it is. It does give you that safety for a while,
Mm,
and I think one of the things I'm really glad that happened to me, because I think it sort of set me up really well for afterwards, is it did take me a few years to get in. It took me 2 attempts to get in,
mm, mm,
and so I ended up, and I did that in my, I ended up having 2 gap years, and they were just years where I was working and kind of getting rejections, and so then when it came to leaving drama school, it wasn't like a very big shock to me.
nice.
So yeah, the safety was nice, and it was nice to have that period of safety where I could learn. But I think the period which I think has allowed me to really enjoy my career now was the period where I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. All of my friends have
Mm,
gone to university. Have I made the right decision? Because you do get all those questions, I think. Yeah.
yeah, that's that's quite interesting. That actually, like the fact that as well, when everyone else is doing things like the majority, and then you're sort of outside of that group, it is
Mm,
quite an interesting feeling because I sort of had the same sort of, like I know that some of my friends are coming out, they're nearly finishing. Some are like doing 3 years now. They've barely even done their first year, so it's like, whoa, that's going to be very interesting to see. But it is quite an experience. Like I don't know. I mean, look, I'm 19, so I don't even know the world that much yet. But I think it's a very strange feeling, I have to say. And I don't know if anyone watching can relate, but it's like if you're seeing everyone else sort of going into that one direction, and you're going, well, I'm going to do something different. It's quite a weird feeling. Like it's it's very strange. But
it
yeah,
is.
now speaking in terms of that like 2-year period of where you're getting rejected and this,
Mm,
that, and the other, how I'd like to speak about like your career now and like how after you did your training, you went on to do loads of stage work. You went to do Enola Holmes as well, which is really cool. That's really great. So yeah, like I'd like to start with the stage. I'd like
mm.
to say like I'm very impressed. You should be very proud of everything that you've done so far. It's really great. Like honestly, keep going, keep going. Um, but how do you? I'm very sure that everything you did at Royal Welsh really helped you
Mm.
in those scenarios. But how was all of those amazing projects that you did?
Oh, I love them. I really like stage. I mean, I've been so lucky. I've really enjoyed and really learned something from every
Mm,
single job, which is amazing, and um, I really enjoy stage. It's so much
yeah.
fun. Um, yeah, I think, and it's interesting that you say that because I think one of the ways that Royal Welsh really set me up well for it is we do this project.
Mm,
Um, you do it, I think, at the end of first year and second year. I think it's changed names now. I don't know what it's called, but it was called like an EYA when I was there, where you get 20 minutes and you get to write, direct, and you have to be the main part in like just 20-minute performance.
right.
And you do it for all the people in first year and second year. And I remember doing it in my first year, and for the entire week before I did it, I was so nervous. Like I was incredibly nervous,
Mm,
and I couldn't work out why I was like quite this nervous. Like I was getting like an hour of sleep a night. I was
whoa.
terrified.
Whoa.
I, I
Okay.
remember, I remember, like, I mean, I think I get quite nervous anyway.
Yeah.
But I remember like the moment before I did it, I realized it was because sort of what I'd written was essentially stand up. And
Mm.
I was like, oh no, I'm doing stand up in front of all of my friends. I have never done this
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and thankfully it went okay. And so and that feeling that was amazing. And I think that was the moment I kind of realized I'd always known I loved acting, but I never really realized why I loved acting
Mm.
and quite what I got from it. And then I think when I did that, I was like, oh, okay, this is why I like it so much.
So what is the why? Why do you love it?
So just trying to figure out how to
No, it's
phrase it.
fine. That's fine. I think it's a
um,
good it's a very good thing to understand because the previous episode I was speaking to I was speaking to someone called Loren and she was saying the exact same thing about understanding the why is
mm,
super important.
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of think the way I think about acting and why I love it so much is, do you know when you get like a gut instinct about someone
Mm.
and you're like, oh, I trust you or I don't trust you, and
Yeah.
you haven't really got like a reason for it necessarily. Like
Yeah.
I think that for me, I've always thought of that like that's the conscious part of my brain that's
Mm.
questioning things. And it's like, why do you feel that about someone? There's no reason for you to feel that about them. But I think that maybe like our subconscious brain or our unconscious, I'm sure there's like loads of people who can phrase this better than me or who can tell me I'm
No, no, it's
wrong.
good. It's good.
Like our subconscious brain has picked up all these tiny little cues and is going like, the way they did this, and this. And like there's like a massive supercomputer there that has put all that information together and has just told our conscious brain, though, this person is bad. And that's all the information we have. Um, I think that's kind of like where I discovered I loved acting, because I think like a lot of the time with the training, like I was saying, I was so paranoid about making mistakes. I was like, I can't make
Mm.
mistakes. I have to think about this. I have to
Yeah.
put everything has to be right. And I think that was my conscious brain trying to
Right.
control it. But, and so the choices I was making weren't as good, weren't as interesting because they were so like controlled. But I think when I just allowed my subconscious brain to take over and to, because it's so much better like thinking,
Right.
I think it was able to come up with ideas so much quicker, and it has had so much fun, and it was just so freeing to just let, yeah. And I think I realized that's kind of why I like it so much.
Yeah. So it's more that the subconscious mind is allowing more intuitive feelings and emotions come through. So
Mm,
would you say that your why is it allows you that freedom, that feeling of expression and freedom without the whole like self-consciousness applied to it, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it.
Amazing. No, that's good. That's good because it's very important. Like I'm still figuring out myself like what is like clarifying what my why is. Like I love it. I know I do. But it's the why part which I think is important. And that goes for everyone. Like whether no matter what it is you do, if you figure out why you want to do something, I think it will just make the path a little bit easier because then
Mm,
you'll really understand yourself, which is important. But how sorry, what did I ask before? Oh yeah, we were talking about school, weren't we? The Royal Welsh and the
yeah.
how you, all of the stage work that you're doing. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. That was it. That was
mm.
it. Um, so do you how important do you think stage is actually? Like how like obviously it's very foundational and obviously it's kind of a obvious
Mm,
question, but I think because it's so foundational,
mm.
I think it carries a lot of importance, but unfortunately, it is sort of not dying. I mean, ever since COVID happened, it sort of dissolved a bit because everyone was just consuming so much like media, like Netflix, Amazon,
Mm.
all the streaming services and stuff. But how important do you think theatre is like to acting, like the art itself?
I mean, for me, I feel like that is it's really difficult because what do we exactly like mean by like how important is it? Like
I would say, okay, maybe not important, maybe how how maybe culturally important because for the art itself, it's lasted since like
mm,
I don't know that like thousands of years. Stage itself, like you'll go all the way back to like Greek tragedy, for example. Like that's been around for ages.
mm.
So I think maybe like how important is the preservation of it?
Uh, I think it's so important. I it's difficult because I do understand why it can be viewed as an inaccessible
Mm,
form of acting. I really do understand that. Um, and I think more work should be done to make it more accessible,
mm,
definitely. Um, but I think for me, like I've always enjoyed screen. I probably
mm.
like I don't watch as many movies or as TV shows as I should. To be completely honest with you, like if you were to
Yeah.
say to me, "Have you watched this movie?" You'd probably be like, "Wow, she's watched nothing." like, um, and I think I've always enjoyed screen, but
Mm,
there is something about going to the theatre which I think is like again it's always like instinctively I've just loved it more. I've always connected with it more. I've always just there's something about being there and you're only going to see it this one time and it's going to be done in this one way and it's so live and it's so there and it can change and it depends on how people feel at the time and I've always just found it much more like evocative, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think in a way because you can do less with it, because you can't have all the things that you can have on screen. In a way you can do more with it because you have to use your a bit of your imagination.
100%.
It's like with reading, like some of it you just have to take yourself there. And I think I've always
Mm,
loved that so much more. That's always been what's really resonated with me. And so I do think, yeah, I do think it would be
yeah.
great to
100%. I think I hope that like I watched what's it called? Stranger Things, The First Shadow, and that was
Mm,
like almost a combination of the film world and bringing in stage. But that obviously because it's produced by Netflix, they got like a whole bunch of money, and the set was insane. Like the set design was nuts, and I think that might be the potential future. Hopefully, to keep stage alive is like you have like these big, well, maybe I hope they just don't corrupt it, but these big like um production houses like from maybe TV and film, they come over and they want to make stage productions, that would be really good for the art, because that would be like if you literally have loads of plays like Stranger Things in that production design, which was absolutely mental. Oh my god, it'd be so sick. Um, I got a question. Like, since you were talking about how stage is a lot more evocative and more like there,
Mm.
what would you say your experience then was like between, like, let's say one of the jobs you did on stage compared to Enola Holmes, for example? Like, how was the difference? How did you find that experience in maybe like character development, in finding your space, your moment? How was that for you?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I think when I did Enola Holmes, that was one of my first jobs when I left drama school.
Mm,
So as I've talked about, I was
yeah,
quite nervous.
yeah,
um, but like, yeah, and and they were so lovely there. Everyone was really, really kind and welcoming. But I think I was always going to be terrified,
yeah,
no matter what anyone could have said to me. I would have been terrified no matter what, which I think is important. I think it's okay to be
mm,
scared.
100%.
Um, and I think it's actually good sometimes to admit that we get really
Definitely.
nervous.
It's like if you're scared, it means you care.
Yeah.
Like, if you're nervous, it means you care a lot about something, and
Mm,
you want it to go right. But then you do have to rein it in, of course, when it's time
mm.
for action, you know? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And I think it when I was approaching Enola Holmes, I think in the days leading up to it, I was
Mm,
definitely falling back into like some old habits I'd always done, where I was like, I have to get it right because I
mm,
only have this chance to get it right, and it has to be
right.
this. And then you kind of get there, and again, because you're nervous, because you have that adrenaline, suddenly, that kind of goes out the window, which is
Mm,
great because then you can just enjoy it and be a bit
exactly.
more in the moment. And I think how that compares to stage is, um, maybe sometimes, yeah, maybe sometimes when I start doing stuff for stage, I can be a bit in my head trying to get it right. Um, but then I think you put in that element of the audience, and it suddenly just becomes fun again. So in some ways they are
Yeah.
incredibly different, but they are also quite similar, I guess.
Yeah, quite similar. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They do have that sort of essence of like with stage, of course, you have that huge rehearsal period before, whereas with film, you don't get that. It's almost quite individual work, and then you approach it. But I think the thing with film that compares to like the rehearsal period is that you get multiple takes, or
Mm,
you usually get at least like three. I'd say at least 3, 4 takes, depending on how tight they are for time. You never know. Um, and I think what you said there about uh, being in your head, like getting stuck in your head a lot, I think that applies to like literally every aspect, like whether it's stage, whether it's doing a voiceover, whether it's doing film. Like, you can get too stuck in here thinking about, okay,
mm,
is the character correct, is the character right? And I think something important there to mention is trust yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Trust that because if you've prepared everything and you've already got everything down, just trust the process, believe in it, and then you can explore, you can have fun, you can find the little idiosyncrasies of your characters, and you can really, expand on it. But I
yes,
think it's completely just that being afraid is completely normal.
yeah,
Like, having that fear response is basically the most human thing ever. It's what
mm,
keeps you alive. And it's okay to have that, especially, I mean, look, if you just come out of drama school and you went straight to do like Enola Holmes, that's crazy. It's like, what the hell? It's like already setting foot on like a big production. You're like, oh my God. Oh, like there's even more pressure you feel. But it's good that they make you feel comfortable and they made you feel relaxed, which is important. Like, definitely having
mm,
a good crew and a good team is
oh,
almost
definitely.
just as important as having a great cast. But yeah.
Mm,
Now, Nia, For my final question for you today. Now, you don't have to. It doesn't have to come in like 1 second. It doesn't have to pop into your head. But it would be, what advice would you give to anyone watching, whether they're like my age, 18, 19, or whatever age? It doesn't matter. What advice would you give to someone who is in acting, who's in the industry, they want to get into the industry, wherever they are?
Mm.
What piece of advice would you give them to maybe help them continue pushing forward in an industry that doesn't really give you any autonomy whatsoever? Um, what advice would you give someone? You can take as much time as you need because it's a very difficult question.
It's quite a difficult
It is
question.
very difficult. I don't expect anyone to generate something so quick.
I think for me, things started to get easier when I was kinder to myself. And like you said, like when I started to trust the process, but also to just trust myself and to get to know myself and to get to really like myself and to figure out what all my quirks were, what made me me, what I could bring to the table, what I brought to everything that I could. And this isn't me being like I have everything figured out. I'm still definitely evolving with that. I just noticed such an improvement in my enjoyment of what I was doing when I was like, I enjoying this. And for me, like a huge part of that was taking care of my wellness. I think I do a lot of yoga. I teach yoga, which has been amazing and has really helped me. And I think taking approach to like finding what works for you for your mental well-being, and taking time to figure that out, I guess.
No, amazing. No, that's really great. That's really great. Well, thank you so much, Nia, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been really nice speaking to you today, and I hope that you guys got something great out of that, especially in that last section there. I think it's really important that we all, similarly enough, find just from the previous episode, is there is a really great importance in finding our own things that give us fulfillment and give us joy and make it so that mentally we are able to keep on pushing forward and just living life, just living life, because what acting is just a reflection of life itself. So you've got to live a little before you can give it out. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll catch you all later. Peace out.